Are you burned out? Have you been working at the same thing for a long time and have found yourself just like, your passion is waned? It's kind of exactly where this person who wrote us stated. I've been in the same industry for 30 plus years and my passion has waned. Should I be looking for something else or is it just an ego trip? Great question. Really great question. Guess what? I've been doing the same thing for 30 years as well. I cannot believe I can even say that. This is nuts. Okay, so listen. We had somebody else with a very similar question, like, how do I deal with burnout and losing interest in something that I once was passionate about? Listen, that is, hello, friend. Everyone goes through that. Every human goes through that. So if you've been working at something for 30 years or you've kind of burned yourself out and you've lost interest, what this shows us is a couple of different things. Here's a couple of ways maybe to decipher what is going to be best for you. Do I think you should jump ship and go find something else to do? No, not necessarily. In fact, usually that is the biggest mistake most people make. They never establish any roots for themselves. And if you don't have deep roots, you cannot bear good, juicy, wonderful fruit that you will be able to enjoy. But for you who've been in the same career for 30 plus years and now you're saying, I've kind of lost my passion for it, hey, listen, that's normal. Sometimes we get tired. But what this really is a sign of is that it sounds like your career has been your everything. You can go, wow. Yeah. You see, when the career has elevated itself higher in the list of priorities inside of our heart and in our mind, well, your career does not have the ability to satisfy all things human that is you. It doesn't. It only has the ability to provide, okay? And if you're managed to find satisfaction in your work, which again is a mindset, and that's the mindset of a true winner. Someone who's playing their career to win is somebody who is looking for satisfaction in their work. Now, so maybe when you first got started 30 years ago, the fun found you. But then what you have to do is you have to press through the times of boredom. And why do we get bored? You have to press through the times of boredom and ask the question again, why do we get bored? We get bored when we haven't learned a new thing. That's when we get bored. That's how our human minds work. If we're not learning, we're not growing. And if we're not growing, we're finding trouble, which is called boredom. Boredom is a very dangerous thing. When you get bored in your marriage, it's very dangerous. When you get bored as a parent, it's very dangerous. When you get bored with your diet, it's very dangerous. When you get bored at work, it's very dangerous. But how do we get bored? We haven't learned a new thing. It's simply a sign that we haven't learned a new thing in a long time. The second sign that it is that perhaps the career has elevated itself higher than what the real things are that are much more important than just provision. You see, so many of us have turned to work to find satisfaction. We've turned to work actually to be our purpose, even though our purpose is outside of work. Work is part of our purpose of being a human being. We're supposed to, well, in my opinion, love the Creator and love His people, which are all 7 billion of us on the planet, okay? So love our Creator and love our neighbor as ourself. We are supposed to go forth and multiply. So it goes like this. Love Him, love our neighbor, get married, have other people who love Him and love our neighbor, and work. Work to provide for what? The existence of living. It's when our work has become much more than provision, when it now has exalted itself higher than our purpose. When it's exalted itself higher than our marriage, it has exalted itself higher than being loving and kind and compassionate to others. When it has exalted itself higher than our relationships with our family and the children in which we birthed, or with our siblings that we grew up with, when the priority of work has exalted itself higher than the most important relationships on earth, this is a sign that something's really out of place. and you will start to become dissatisfied in those personal relationships, and those personal relationships will begin to frustrate you, gnaw at you. You'll be bored of them because you haven't had a focus on those things. And so because you're finding fulfillment somewhere else, it's almost like committing adultery. You're finding fulfillment and fun, and you're jazzed about it, and you're excited about it, when in all reality, we should be a bit more that way at home. So when we have made that switch and that work has become our God, if you will, if it's become our everything, it's become our source of all things, well, eventually that peters out. Eventually, it no longer serves us in that way. And so here's my recommendation of a couple of things. Number one, check your heart. See if your career has exalted itself higher than it should, okay? Number two, when was the last time you learned something new? When was the last time you got into something more challenging in your current state of employment or your current business that you have, right? What excited you in the beginning, and why have you no longer focused on what excited you in the beginning? Because the very thing that excited you in the beginning is probably the same thing that's going to excite you today. And or, hey, what's new on the horizon within the same organization that you have not challenged yourself to learn and grow in? What is something that you've always wanted to do, but you've been a little scared to do it? You know, there's that thing that goes, oh, but why? And here's why. When you live in a comfort zone for too long, you begin to die mentally. You begin to die emotionally. You begin to die spiritually. So if you want like a nice little infusion of, fear, then step out in faith. Whenever you step out in faith, fear then rises up, and then you get to overcome it, right? And so if you have no fear and you've been in a comfort zone, it's because you haven't stepped out in faith in a long time, and you haven't learned a new thing. You haven't put your neck out on the line. You haven't tried something different. So come on. Those are some ways that perhaps you can make an improvement there. And by the way, have you ever heard of job domination? Really important system to be able to help you flourish like crazy in your career. Listen, I know that you don't want to just stay the same. You wouldn't be listening to me if you want to stay the same. You would not be joining this show every single day if you want to just go status quo and just gonna sail on by my comfort zone. No, honey, 5 minutes with me and I know you're like, no, you got to move, man. You got to move. Job domination is going to show you how to find satisfaction in your work, how to climb up higher, how to challenge yourself beyond, and how to get other people to work together right alongside with you. So get a hold of it and let me know what you're using it for and the results that you got.